Hi everyone, welcome my Mah Jongg friends. Today we're going to talk about the shape of your hand, patterns. Those of you who take my new card workshop in April know I love to talk about patterns. These patterns can be found on the current year card and on previous year's cards. The National Mahjong League has historically had these patterns as categories. In 1941 and 1957 is where I happen to find them. Pattern recognition is a highly developed brain function and is a great core skill for the advanced Mahjong player. Our visual learners can also see these types of groupings. As early as 5 years of age, kindergarten, some can figure out what comes next or what's missing in the pattern. Patterns are created with numbers, objects, shapes, and/or colors, which are arranged in a particular order that repeat and help understand the relationship between numbers, and they help visual learners to recognize the patterns. Patterns are all around us. Buildings have patterns, textiles, animals, and math. We have patterns in Mahjong. Patterns in Mahjong at the simple level are based on the categories. The categories have patterns. The best way to learn patterns is to get out your Mahjong card and your tiles, and we're going to use as visual aids some helpers to learn these types of patterns on the card. If you don't have a set, grab some graph paper and 4-colored pen. They sell the specific one that has 4 colors in it, which is fun to use, and handwrite them old school on graph paper. See the description below for the link to supplies if you wish to buy some graph paper and a 4-colored pen. The categories, as I said, have patterns. They are numbered patterns themselves. For example, we all love consecutive run, and they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They increase by 1 consecutive number, growing, ascending. Evens, 2, 4, 6, 8. Increase by 2 evens starting with the number 2, growing, ascending. Odds, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Increase by 2 starting with odd number 1 and growing, ascending. 3, 6, 9 increases by 3, growing, ascending. That's just a quick look at the card. Why should we learn patterns? By learning pattern recognition, you become more flexible, and it's important each year for you to keep your brain cells active, learning the hands so you don't make a mistake calling, increase thinking speed, helps you make mid-game changes, easy to find a section, knowing the card better, keeps your hand from going dead or from calling the wrong grouping, helps you find a winning hand, and helps you play defense confidently. The more hands you master, the greater your chances for success. What do patterns do? Patterns repeat over and over. Patterns follow a rule, how the pattern works. Here are some examples.
Let's learn the basic pattern. Let's begin with a triangle, followed by a triangle, followed by another triangle. Then by a square and 3 more squares. It's doing the same thing over and over. Now what would come next? 3 triangles. What would be the next grouping? 4 squares. The shapes alternate between triangles and squares. In order to understand the rule, now you know the pattern's code. If something is missing, you can still figure out the code. The pattern is 3, 4, 3, 4. Here's the pattern we've just learned. Even if something is missing, you can still figure out based on the code. What belongs in these 2 empty spots? What is the pattern's rule? Remember, 3 triangles, 4 squares. So what shape goes here? Right, triangle. 3 triangles. What shape is our final shape that's missing? Square. Great job. Here's the pattern we just learned. Let's look at it with Mahjong eyes. Instead of the shapes, we have numbers. We have a pung, 3 of the same number suit. Now we have 4 of a kind, same number, same suit, called a kong. 4 2 dots and 3 1 dots. The pattern is 3 4. Now, if we go back to our original pattern of groupings, what's the rule this pattern calls for? It's the 3 4 3 4 pattern, or pung kong pattern. What would come next? Do you know? What are the groupings? What rule is the numbers following? It's increasing by 1. So if the pattern is 3 4 3 4, increasing by 1, what comes next? You got it. The number 3 increased by 1. But we have the pattern of 3. What comes next? Increase by 1, which is the number 4, and the pattern is 4. Let's review. The pattern is 3 4. That's the pattern that repeats 3 4. Looking through our Mahjong eyes, we're still using the pattern 3 4. Repeat 3 4. In Mahjong, we use numbers, and that 3 4 3 4 pattern is called pung kong pung kong. We also, in the grouping, we're replacing triangles with numbers, the squares with numbers. We're increasing by 1. This is in the consecutive run category, and you can find this type of pattern in all the categories. Can you find them all? There are 9 more hands with this type of pattern. See if you can find them. Check each category carefully and look for the pung kong pattern. Remember, in the consecutive run, the numbers do not have to be as they are printed on the card. You can use different numbers. Here's an example with different numbers. It still follows the pung kong pattern. Here's the pattern we just learned. I removed 2 numbers from our sequence. So what's missing? Remember, the pattern is pung kong. A pung is 3 of a kind, so we're missing the 6. And a kong is 4 of a kind, so we're missing the 7. And it is in ascending order by growing by 1.
Let's discover more patterns, looking at the ones that already have been named by the National Mahjong League. The pattern we're going to discuss that the National Mahjong League has shown up on their cards is the pyramid pattern. Sometimes patterns make shapes. The one that we're going to discuss today on the National Mahjong League card was a category called pyramids. Let's look at the pyramid shape.
Here is our next pattern, the pyramid. The pyramid shape, the groupings increase by 1. It's 2, 3, 4. And in Mahjong, it will repeat again. Reverse, 3, 2. Here's what that pattern looks like in our Mahjong game. Here's the shape of the pattern. 2, 3, 4 creates a pyramid. In Mahjong, we also continue the pattern by decreasing. 3, 2. That creates an upside down pyramid. In Mahjong, we lay them across. You have your pairs on the end, your pungs, and then in the middle is your kong. This pattern is pair, pair, pung, pung, kong in the middle. This is the pyramid pattern. Increasing by 1 is the next step. These also can be found all over the card. There are several hands, 6 at most that I find, that you can use this pattern. Go ahead and try to find them, and I'll give more explanation about this hand. Let's look at this as an ABC pattern. We start off with A, and A repeats at the back end of these 14 tiles. A. Then it changes to 3. B. The B pattern repeats itself on the back end, which is a pung, 3 of a kind. Then in the center, we have the letter C, 4 of a kind, which is a kong. C, 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 C. This is A, 2 A's, 3 B's, which is a pung, and 4 C's. The pattern that repeats, but in reverse, is the AABB, which shows up over here, AABB. So your A's match and your B's match.
The next pattern that shows up on the card is called gates. Gates are 3 pairs that are tucked between 2 kongs, which are the gates. The pairs are the pickets of the gate. We'll take a look at this now.
This is the gate hand. As I mentioned, 3 pairs in the center. 1, 2, 3. Tucked between 4 of a kind on the side. Sort of looks like a gate. We'll talk about what other people say with this pattern, but let's get this on our way. So you have 4 and 4 with pairs, 3 pairs in the middle. This shows up in the 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 section. You have 4 ones with 4 nines in the same suit. Tucked in the middle are your pairs of 3s, pairs of 5s, and pairs of 7s. That would make the hand kong, pair, 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 kong. This also shows up in the Winds and Dragons section. It's not quite the gate pattern, but it's similar. Let me show you that one. Again, keeping in mind the gate pattern of 4, pair, 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 4. Let's do it with the Winds and Dragons hand. You have 4 dragons in one suit, 4 dragons in a different suit, with pairs of norths, a pair of south, and This is where it kind of differs a little. You need pairs, but unfortunately, this pattern doesn't follow it 100%. It's a single east and a single west. It still forms a gate, but it's not 3 identical pairs. It's 2 identical and 1 east and 1 west in the middle. This, again, is an example of a gate hand. Another way to look at this pattern is a sandwich. We have 2 shapes of octagon. This will serve as our bread. Then we have a diamond in the middle. The 2 octagon is the bread and the diamond is the meat. So between the 2 octagons is the sandwich. We can add different things to our sandwich. We can add another diamond, and now we have an octagon sandwich with ham and cheese. We can add another diamond, and we have our octagon sandwich with ham, cheese, and salami. So you have 2 of the same on the outside with individuals in the middle. This makes our sandwich. Let's expand on this pattern and make 4 octagons with pairs in the middle, with 3 pairs. What would come next? We need to top our sandwich off with 4 additional octagons. Now our sandwich is complete. The rule for this pattern is 4 yellow octagons at either end and groupings of 2 of each diamond in the center. Let's look at this through our Mahjong eyes. This sandwich pattern with Mahjong tiles. 4 of a kind, 4 of a kind, with 3 pairs in the middle. Kong, pair, 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 Kong. Now let's look at the second type of pattern within the group, how it jumps from 1 to 3, increasing by 2 numbers. From 3 to 5, increasing by 2 numbers. 5 to 7, increasing by 2, and 7 to 9, increasing by 2. Again, this is the sandwich pattern. Let's look at this one more time. Who doesn't love the game Uno? Let's make a sandwich with our Uno cards. We have 4 wild cards, and we're going to put our meat in the middle with our 2s, pairs of 2s, pairs of 2s, pairs of 2s. We have 3 pairs of 2s. And next we're going to finish off our sandwich with our wild cards, 4 of them. Now we've completed the sandwich pattern or the gate pattern. With our Mahjong eyes, we could replace them with our tiles to make the pattern. 4, pair, 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 4. Again, see if you can find this pattern. There are only 2 on the card. Really just 1, but I'm stretching it to 2 with the idea of the groupings.
There are a wide variety of patterns on the card this year. Some will like it, as this makes for a more interesting card, and others will complain the lack of uniformity makes the card harder to memorize. I always say, no need to memorize the card, just become very familiar with it. I welcome this variety as it provides a refreshing change from old patterns and provides more challenges to keep our brain cells firing. Make sure to check the pattern before exposing. Can you find the 3 common patterns this year on the card? I've listed the groupings below. See if you can find them.
We love our flowers. Who doesn't like a flower garden? In 1941 and in 1954, I found on the Mahjong League card, they used to gather all the flowers together in a bouquet. They called bouquet hands. They put all the flowers in one category. Can you find all the flower hands? Start with the 2 flower hands. And guess what? There's a pattern there. When you have 2 flowers, what comes next? Let's take a look at it. Can you find all the 2 flower hands? It's 2 flowers, and then there's groupings after them. There should be 9 hands with 2 flowers in them and the matching groupings, which would be Kong, Kong, Kong. So it's pair of flowers, 4, 4, 4. This looks like this. Your pairs of flowers, and then you have 4 of a kind. Change colors, change number. Change colors again, because we have 4. See if you can find all the 2 flower hands with the pattern 4, 4, 4. In this example, I found it in consecutive run, and it's 7, 8, 9, increasing by 1. Check out the other categories and find this pattern. There's 9 of them. Now look to find the 4 flower hands, a Kong of flowers. With a Kong of flowers, patterns are not consistent. However, with 4 flowers, there are 10 hands. See if you can find them. Within the flower hands, can you find other patterns with the 4 flowers? Try to group them together and see if you can find patterns with 4 flowers and then patterns after. There are 2 types of patterns within the flower groupings. So find the 4 flowers and try to group them together to see if you can find a pattern. The staircase pattern, ascending. As you ascend, go up, taking steps 1 at a time or 2 at a time, then increasing in size in the groupings. Goes from 1, pair, 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind, until you are at the highest point. There are 5 of them. These are great hands to learn, the stepping hands. See if you can find the 5 hands.
There are some less uncommon patterns on the card this year. One of them is called the knitted hand. It's 2 different suits intertwined, kind of like knitting. Knit, purl, knit, purl. Here is the 3, 6, 9 hand, where matching kongs of 3 and 9, and matching pungs, the 6, and the dragon that matches. They're intertwined. This is the only hand on the card this year. But now you know what a knitted hand is, and maybe next year there'll be more knitted hands on the card that you'll be super familiar with. Now that you've found the 3 varieties of patterns that are strong on the card, double check again the pattern before you expose your meld. Find a pattern you can learn and name it by association. It doesn't have to be the ones that we talked about. You can create your own. Often, you find a pattern within a pattern. Here's an example. 1, 2, 1, 2. The basic pattern is 3, 4, 3, 4. Pung, pong, pung, pong. Pattern within the pattern is now the numbers. The numbers repeat, repeating over and over. 1, 2, 1, 2. Remember, this doesn't have to be the numbers 1, 2. It can be any consecutive numbers. Hope you enjoyed our session about patterns, and now you can look at each card with a new set of eyes. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up or click below and subscribe. Thank you for your support as always, and see you in the next video. If you'd like to take lessons from me, you can contact me on Instagram at Mah Jongg Class, or on Facebook, or on my website. The easiest way to get in touch with me is to email me at mahjongclass@yahoo.com. Thanks for watching.